Before we get into the case tonight, I want to thank the show's sponsor, BetterHelp, for helping keep the flame lit of the campfire for this episode. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service that's 100% online. So you don't have that awkwardness of sitting in a waiting room with a whole bunch of other strangers waiting to see your therapist. With BetterHelp, you have access to a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with whatever you're dealing with. All you have to do to get started is answer some questions about what your needs and preferences are in therapy. So that way, BetterHelp can match you with a therapist that is right for you. And if you want to change your therapist because maybe you're not comfortable with them, you can change your therapist at any time for no additional charge. You also don't have to wait any specific time or any number of sessions to change your therapist. So when you match up with that right therapist, you can talk to your therapist however is most comfortable for you, whether it's text, chat, phone, or video. You can also message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you and your schedule. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, with more scheduling flexibility and more affordable prices. So if you go to the website and use the show's code, betterhelp.com/CCC, not only does that let them know that you heard it at the campfire, but you'll also receive 10% off your first month. So that's betterhelp.com/CCC. BetterHelp, HELP.com/CCC. And I'll also have a link provided in the show notes. November 17th, 2011. A mother of 3 vanishes after dropping her twins off at their father's house for their scheduled visitation with him. Then leaves to head home, but she would never make it home, nor would she show up for her 7:30 p.m. shift at the barn, which is a well-known local hangout where Michelle Parker is a bartender. Following the airing of an episode of The People's Court, where Michelle and her ex-fiance Dale Smith Jr. battle over a $5,000 engagement ring, Michelle is never heard or seen from again. So where would Michelle Parker disappear to? How does someone vanish without a trace? It happens all too often, as our last episode covered another missing persons case in Central Florida, where her body was never found either. In Orlando, Florida, police would have a similar missing persons case on their hands, as they too have never been able to recover Michelle's body. But the answers are far from simple. Suspicion has always casted a shadow on Michelle's ex-fiance Dale, who has always been a person of interest in her disappearance. However, the lack of concrete evidence has kept the truth shrouded in uncertainty, leaving investigators, family, and friends grasping for clues. Michelle is not just a missing person. She was a loving mother to 3 children, 2 of which are twins and remain entangled in a heartbreaking battle as the legal system grapples with the complexities of the situation. Michelle's parents yearn for a chance to embrace their grandchildren once again. In a world where justice is sought, families are torn, and secrets lie just beneath the surface, the echoes of Michelle Parker's story continue to resonate, because some echoes never truly vanish. This is the 3rd missing persons case that I've covered in the Campfire's short run of true crime podcasting. And although each one has been different in their own way, with their own story, they all share a common denominator: nobody. The Brandy Hall case, which is episode 21, has had the same outcome and similar mysteries. Someone out there knows the whole story. In the Cassie Sheets case in episode 17, another big mystery and a whole lot of questions. Although they think they found the body, it's been almost 2 years, and still no results of identification of the remains have been determined. Welcome to the Campfire. Grab a s'more and have a seat. Thanks for joining me tonight around the fire, where we discuss the dark world of true crime. This is the Campfire Crime Chronicles, a true crime podcast. And this is the case of Michelle Parker. As we mentioned in the trailer, Michelle Parker was a mother of three. She had two twins with her ex-fiance Dale Smith Jr. and an 11-year-old son from a previous relationship. Michelle was a bartender at the Barn, which was a local hangout in the Orlando area. In addition to working nights at the bar, she had her own mobile tanning business that she was doing and had an advertisement sticker in her back window of her Hummer H3. The day that Michelle goes missing, she is scheduled to work at the Barn at 7:30 p.m. On November 17th, 2011, the Thursday that she goes missing, an episode of The People's Court aired of Michelle and her ex-fiance, Dale, about a $5,000 ring that Michelle tossed following an argument that the two were having. According to the episode, Dale wanted the ring back and Michelle threw it at him, and it was unclear if it got lost or damaged, but the judge ruled for Dale to pay Michelle $2,500. Now, there's some controversy to that statement because most of the research said that Dale had to pay Michelle. However, there were a couple of articles that said Michelle had to pay Dale $2,500. In the episode of The People's Court, the two would hurl accusations at each other. Michelle would claim in the episode that Dale would be malicious and vindictive, all while having a drinking problem, which she would state that the two would go hand in hand. It was almost like Dale was a completely different person and a decent human being when he was sober. At least that was the implication that I got. But Michelle would go on to say that Dale was always drinking, and when he would get drunk is when they would argue and the violence would start. So on that day, November 17th, Michelle would go to the salon and run an errand for her mother, Yvonne Stewart. Then around 1 to 2 p.m., after Michelle would get back, her mother would make the comment about the People's Court episode airing, and Michelle would state that she had no interest, saying it was the most humiliating day of her life. Then, after she left the salon, no one would hear from Michelle for about 2 or 3 hours, until her 11-year-old son calls the salon to talk to Yvonne looking for his mother, Michelle. Yvonne would get a hold of Michelle's brother, Dustin, and he would text her around 4:30 asking where she was. He would only receive a one-word response, Waterford, which would imply that she was at Waterford Lakes on the east side of Orlando, which would confuse her family, and it would not make sense to them of why she would be over in that area, especially when she has to work the night shift at the Barn. So while that was going on, Yvonne would call Dale and also Dale's parents looking for Dale, and when she calls Dale's parents, his mother answers, which the two never really got along, but Dale's mother would tell Yvonne that Dale wasn't there and that she would make up a story saying that the 11-year-old son was hurt and she was looking for Michelle. So then Dale comes to the phone and Yvonne is looking for Michelle, and Dale says that he thought Michelle told him that she was going to Waterford to go shopping. Now, Yvonne wouldn't know that there was significance to Dale's response until she talks to Michelle's brother, Dustin, and he tells her that he received a one-word response, Waterford, from Michelle's phone. So now, what Michelle told her mother when she was leaving the salon was that she was going to drop off the twins at Dale's condo and then go home to take a nap and also wait for her 11-year-old son to get home from school. So the story about her going shopping at Waterford doesn't make a whole lot of sense to Yvonne or her brother Dustin. So if we look at the timeline that we have now so far, between 1 and 2 p.m., the People's Court episode airs and comes on. Then around 2 or 2:30 p.m., Michelle leaves the salon to drop off the kids with Dale. Around 3:20 p.m., Michelle arrives at Dale's condo to drop off the twins. Then, sometime just before 4:30, the 11-year-old son calls the salon looking for Michelle and talks to Yvonne. Then, at 4:30 p.m., Michelle's brother, Dustin, texts Michelle looking for her, and then at that same time, immediately receives the response, Waterford. Also at 4:30 p.m., Yvonne calls Dale's house and Dale's parents' house and would find him at his parents' house. So Dale is already at the parents' house at 4:30 p.m. Also remember, Michelle is already missing at this point. She was missing sometime after 3:20 p.m. when she leaves Dale's house and the time that her son comes home from school, which is probably between anywhere, I'm going to say 3:30 and 4 o'clock. Now, I didn't find an exact time when the son came home from school. That's just an estimation. And it's November now, so it is starting to get dark between 4 and 5 p.m. A few hours after Michelle's parents officially reported her missing at the police, her vehicle was found at a nearby complex near the Mall of Millennia. Nothing would be missing except her company logo that was on the back window, which was pretty recognizable. The logo had been scraped off, and if police could tell it had been scraped off, then whoever scraped it off didn't take the time to properly clean the window and was in a hurry. So Dale had quite an extensive rap sheet, and I'm not going to go through all of them. But in 1997, he was arrested for felony battery. Then in 2001, he was court-martialed from the military for a different domestic battery charge. Then in 2009, Michelle would seek out a restraining order against Dale for the abuse towards her, but would be denied the restraining order for lack of evidence. So police would also know this and would start investigating him early on in the investigation. However, as a person of interest, and eventually the only suspect in the case, investigators didn't have any solid evidence against him to make an arrest. Over the decade that Michelle's case would go unsolved and Dale Smith being the only prime suspect, he would stop talking to police and deny their request to talk to them. Which, when Channel 9 News messaged the phone number that they had on file for Dale, he would not answer or respond to their phone calls. However, they were able to speak with Dale's lawyer that he's had since the beginning of the case. The lawyer would comment that Dale was cooperative in the investigation and even allowed investigators to search the home and question him and offered all the information that they wanted. There's even a video of Michelle coming into the area of the home to drop off the kids, which Dale also acknowledged. So when Dale was made a suspect and had to appear in court to see if there was any evidence or enough evidence to go to trial, DCF took the kids from Dale briefly and gave them to Yvonne. Yvonne, after the court hearing, would go over to Dale and give him a hug, letting him know it wasn't her that took the kids, it was DCF. Dale would eventually get custody back after that court hearing when there wasn't enough evidence found to go to trial. So now I want to talk about the cell phone for a minute. The cell phone was found December 7th, 2011, with cell phone pings near Lake Conway. So now we're going to dissect this a little bit. Dale's parents' house is on Rose Boulevard near Texas Avenue, which is 2 miles from where Michelle's Hummer was located. And the bridge where the cell phone was located at or near is 4.2 miles from Rose Boulevard. So now you're thinking, okay, Kevin, that's great. The bridge is 4.2 miles from the father's house. Why are you telling us this? Because Dale's condo, where he left with the kids to go to his parents' house after Michelle dropped them off, that bridge is right between the condo and the father's house. And also, looking at the map, Google Maps, it appeared to be that was the straightest route from the condo to the father's house, which would imply would be the fastest route and also the more likely route that Dale would take to go to his parents' house. So why not just dump the phone over that bridge while you're crossing it so it goes into the water so nobody can find it? At least that was probably the hope. Presuming that Dale was involved with Michelle's disappearance. So I looked at Google Maps whenever I was mapping this out. And depending on how he left the condo to get to that bridge to dump the phone to continue on to his parents' house, it would have taken him anywhere between approximately 25 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on what traffic patterns were like that day and depending on the exact route he took. So, according to Dale, Michelle drops off the kids at 3:20 p.m. and then leaves. So then by the time Yvonne calls Dale's parents' house looking for Dale, we presume it's about 4:30, but it could have been a little bit later in the timeline. It could have been about 5:30, just depending on when she called. There wasn't an exact time. So whenever she called looking for Dale, he was already there. And also, the text message that her brother got was at 4:30 p.m. We know that because of timestamps. So going hypothetical, Dale does something to Michelle at 3:20 or just after 3:20 p.m. when she drops the kids off. Then he's at the parents' house anywhere between 4:30 and 5, we'll say. So that gives him just over an hour to do something and get to his parents' house, and he has about a 25-minute drive. So this is what we can decipher. So assuming that Dale does something to Michelle and he has to get rid of the body and still get to the parents' house to form his alibi, let's say he does something at the condo, leaves the body, takes the kids to the parents' house, forms his alibi, and then leaves, and then later on in the day does something with Michelle's body, and then also, as we're going to find out here in a few moments, is move the Hummer and drop it off at the mall complex where it is found by police. Okay, so finishing up with hypothetical and getting back to the fact, after the discovery of Michelle's cell phone, police searched the canal directly behind a residence that Dale Smith Sr. owns but was renting out. This was not Dale Smith's residence where he was living. This was just a rental that he owned. So local residents of the neighborhood would question why they were just searching directly behind the canal and not the beginning or the end of the canal, which I have more questions about areas that were searched and more specifically haven't been searched, which I'll discuss towards the end of the episode. So 2 years after Michelle's disappearance, police release a video of Michelle's Hummer at 8:55 p.m. on November 17th, 2011, stopped at a red light. It was a mile from where her car would be found. Police were hoping that it would trigger someone's memory, but they would not receive any tips about it. Also, if I remember correctly, in the video, the sticker or the decal of her business was already scraped off. I want to thank the show's sponsor, BetterHelp, for helping keep the flame lit of the campfire for this episode. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service that's 100% online. So you don't have that awkwardness of sitting in a waiting room with a whole bunch of other strangers waiting to see your therapist. With BetterHelp, you have access to a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with whatever you're dealing with. All you have to do to get started is answer some questions about what your needs and preferences are in therapy. So that way, BetterHelp can match you with a therapist that is right for you. And if you want to change your therapist because maybe you're not comfortable with them, you can change your therapist at any time for no additional charge. You also don't have to wait any specific time or any number of sessions to change your therapist. So when you match up with that right therapist, you can talk to your therapist however is most comfortable for you, whether it's text, chat, phone, or video. You can also message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you and your schedule. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you with more scheduling flexibility and more affordable prices. So if you go to the website and use the show's code, betterhelp.com/CCC, not only does that let them know that you heard it at the campfire, but you'll also receive 10% off your first month. So that's betterhelp.com/CCC. BetterHelp, HELP.com/CCC. And I'll also have a link provided in the show notes. In 2013, Michelle's mother filed a wrongful death suit against Dale Smith Jr. Going into the lawsuit, even her lawyer told her it was a hard case to win because Dale was never arrested and Michelle's body was never found. But the lawsuit stated that Dale committed wrongful acts that led to the death of her daughter. But the case would ultimately end up being dropped because there was no body, so they couldn't officially declare Michelle dead or prove that Dale had anything to do with it. Since Dale received custody back of the twins, he would refuse Michelle's parents from being able to see them. So Yvonne would petition lawmakers for the Grandparents' Bill of Rights, which she would get hundreds of people's signatures for the petition and would present the 13-page bill to Tallahassee. The bill, however, would require grandparents to be able to prove that their grandchildren were being harmed mentally or emotionally by not being able to see them, which, if mediation would fall, then the courts could order a psychological evaluation of the children. Yvonne would go on to say in an interview that she wanted the lawmakers to see the importance of the children seeing their families, which included grandparents. Michelle's friend Angela Lawner would state in an interview that Smith had hurt Michelle several times and would leave her stranded in places, even with no shoes. Shortly after airing of the show The Search for Michelle Parker, an anonymous donor donated $200,000 for information leading to a suspect, Michelle's remains, or an arrest. On August 16, 2023, investigators would search the backyard of Dale Smith Sr.'s house, who is the ex-fiance's father, and the residence on Rose Boulevard near Texas Avenue, where Dale Smith Jr. went to after Michelle dropped off the children. They used ground-penetrating radar to go over a concrete pad and the grass area of the pad that was poured just a year after Michelle disappeared. Now, my question is, why did they wait so long to do that search in the backyard? So here's my questions. First question is, whoever texted Dustin, Michelle's brother, Waterford, wasn't Michelle. Common sense would tell us that. And when Yvonne talked to Dale, he also told her Waterford to go shopping, which implies to me that he was referring to Waterford Lakes Town Center, which is a shopping area on the east side of Orlando. Now, we know Michelle would not have gone to Waterford to go shopping because, one, she told her mother she was going home to take a nap, and also she needed to be home for her son when he got home from school. We also can concur and imply that although Michelle was being civil with her ex with dropping off the kids to him, she would have just avoided small talk and would have gotten out of there as soon as she could and just gone home. So, playing devil's advocate, yes, it's possible that the ex tried to talk to Michelle when she dropped off the twins and could have asked her what she was doing for the rest of the day, and not wanting him to know where she was going or what her schedule was, she might have told him that she was going to Waterford to go shopping. But I'm thinking this could have been a slip up on Dale's part whenever he told Yvonne that she was going to Waterford. If he was involved or responsible for Michelle's disappearance, presumed to murder, and Michelle's body is somewhere in that Waterford Lakes area, there are several retention ponds and lakes in that area around Waterford. The Waterford Lakes area in Orlando, I think, is a high interest area. That's just my theory, though. But if we go with that theory, Waterford Lakes Town Center shopping area is approximately 11.4 to 12.1 miles away from Dale Jr.'s residence at the time that he was living, which is approximately a 21 to 24 minute drive, depending on the route and the traffic that you take. Now, if Dale didn't murder Michelle, I would probably put money on it that he was involved and knows who did. But I'm leaning toward that he watched the People's Court episode prior to her arrival, got angry, and then when she got there, got into an argument with her when she dropped off the kids and murdered her there at his place, or followed her and murdered her somewhere else. There's a couple of issues for the murder at his house theory, though. Where Dale was living was in a condo or an apartment type building, so the kids would have seen something or heard something, but Dale could have played it off and told them that Michelle was sick and was taking a nap and bought him some time. However, the kids would have eventually said something as they got older. But maybe that's why Dale has denied Michelle's family from being able to see them. But then we have the whole living in a condo or apartment issue where someone could have heard or even seen something or the struggle that they were having and either looked to see what was going on or called the police or both. But according to reports, investigators searched Dale's condo and Dale didn't have any resistance to them searching his condo, and they, according to the research, found nothing. There's still a lot of questions that need answers, and some of those answers we won't get because that would require Dale Jr. to talk about Michelle and answering questions, and also knowing if police searched the retention ponds and lakes around the area of the Waterford Lakes Town Center. Also, another question I have is why did investigators wait almost 12 years since her disappearance to search Dale Smith Sr.'s backyard with GPR? Why not search the backyard and other places that he owned, even the entire yard or the yard of Dale Sr.'s rental property? It is possible that investigators already searched the area of the Waterford area and just didn't make it media knowledge. There's a lot of questions still unanswered, and with any luck, those answers will come sooner than later to be able to get justice for Michelle. The family and police are encouraging anyone with information to come forward and contact the tip line at 386-402-3729 or email mp200ktips@gmail.com. They can also report tips to the Orlando Police Department at 407-246-2979 or Crime Line at 800-423-8477. And I'll be leaving these numbers and email address in the show notes as well. So that concludes this case at the campfire. I know there's some more information that I didn't include in this story as there was a lot of information to cover. All resources used to gather information for this case include, but not limited to, news articles, reports, documentaries, as well as other sources. I appreciate everyone who has gathered by the campfire with me for this case. I appreciate all the support from all the listeners and all the supporters. Also, if you wish to support the show, you can support the show with the S'mores Fund through the website campfirecrimechronicles.com, or even go to PayPal directly, and the email for the show's PayPal is campfirecrimechronicles@gmail.com, and a link will be provided in the show notes. So join me next time in 2 weeks as we gather around the campfire for the next case that we dive into. And remember to sleep with one eye open. This is the Campfire Crime Chronicles, a true crime podcast.